Alright, what's up everybody? Gonna do a little October ride-in chat today. I'm on a new wheel again today. This one is the Oryx. This is the biggest wheel that they're making. It's a big one. It's quite a bit bigger than the last one that I was riding. So I thought I would do a little ride and chat / review. Let you know what I think about it. So far, it's been really good. I do enjoy riding it. It's a lot different than my other one, or the other ones that I have. I've kind of gotten to where I'm not really enjoying riding the patent as much because there's not quite enough room on the patent for me to get my brake pads back far enough. So when I'm riding the patent, it kind of forces me into you should kind of be in a little bit of a, squatted position, legs, knees bent or whatever. But when I'm riding a patent, it's forces me into a really a heavily knees bent, squatted position because of the brake pads. I can't get them far enough back. With the Sherman L and this one, the Oryx, there's plenty of room for the pads to be able to space them out where you need them. So, what do I think about the Oryx so far? I've got a few hundred miles on it so far, and it's heavy. You can definitely tell it's heavy. When you're riding slow, it's not that bad. It's very maneuverable, when you're riding slow. You do feel the weight all the time because this one is, it's getting close to 130 pounds. So, when you're riding it and you go to, turn it, you definitely feel that weight. For me, more so when I'm riding faster. When I'm riding fast and I go into a turn, this thing you really... Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Jeez, man. I should have blown my horn. That's one thing that I've got on this one now. And my Sherman L is a horn. Had to put a horn on here because, one thing is because of these deer that like to jump out in the road and just stand there or jump out in front of you. But the freaking crazy drivers, man, that can't drive on their own side of the road. I should have blown the horn at the guy. but I had the camera in my hand, so I couldn't reach the horn. Okay, so back to the Oryx. Yeah, it's yeah, when you go to turn at speed on this one, you have to push it over, or put your weight. You gotta put a little more weight into it when you're turning on this one. But overall, I do enjoy riding this wheel. If I could get my money back for it, would I buy it again? Absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely buy this. It's a very, very good wheel, in my opinion. The only thing that I really don't like about it is the suspension. When you step up on the wheel, I've already made a post out there on the EUC Facebook page talking about it, and I've seen a lot of people besides me say either agree with me or say exactly the same thing, and that is that when you step up on the wheel, there's going to be a little bit of rider sag. Your weight, I'm 200 pounds, 6 foot tall. When I step onto the wheel, the suspension compresses about 1 inch from my rider weight. So once you get that 1 inch compression from your rider weight, that's pretty much it. Beyond that, I have to, you see a lot of people bouncing on the wheel. They bounce up and then down. Oh yeah, this suspension's great. Well, when they're bouncing up, they're taking the rider sag off the wheel, and that's the compression that you're getting is from the very top down. Well, to me, that's not enough. Because if I'm riding and I hit a manhole cover or a pothole or something in the middle of the road, it needs to compress further than what it does. And on this one, it doesn't really. I mean, unless you're like coming off a 3-foot drop, I'm sure, it'll compress a little bit more. But from the rider sag height, which is where it is right now when I'm standing on it, for me to get it to go down any further, it doesn't really, it may compress another 1/2 inch or so beyond where it's at after I step up on it. So because of that, any little bump in the road, like this bump right here, there's nothing, no compression. I felt it. There's a place over here, I'll show you when we get there, but there's like some washboard area on the road where there's a bunch of little bitty bumps when you're going down the road. And on the Sherman L, it's not as bad. On this one, it's like, there's nothing. You feel every single bump, and it's hard to go over that area with no suspension. So yeah, for me, that's really my only complaint is the suspension is pretty stiff compared to my Sherman L and the Patton's like riding a cloud. That thing is so cushy riding. It's unbelievable. And I think one of the major contributing factors to the suspension, like even the Sherman L, it's stiff, a lot stiffer than the Patton. And I think the major reason for that is because of the progressive springs that they're using now, where you have a normal coil, and then as it gets more compressed, as you get toward the bottom of the springs, the the coils get tighter, which, that's great if you're jumping or, dropping off of 3-foot tall drops onto, flat ground. Yeah, that's going to be, better for you, keep you from bottoming out. But for the casual rider like me, that, I'm just out here riding the roads, I don't do any off-roading. For me, it makes it just too stiff, in my opinion. I think that they should offer, a progressive suspension and a non-progressive suspension for people that just do street riding. Because I don't think I've ever even come close to bottoming out any of mine. Like the patent with the non-progressive spring, I don't think I've come anywhere close to bottoming that wheel out, because I've never jumped it or anything like that. So that's just my opinion on the suspension, is it kind of sucks on the Oryx, unfortunately. It rides nice and smooth otherwise. I mean, if you're on smooth pavement, you're not doing anything that's using the suspension, but every little bump in the road, I can feel every single bump, which is, and it's not that bad. You do have a little bit of, the tire takes up a little bit of the bumps and stuff, the compression of the tire, but still, you have to be kind of careful when you're riding because of that. Because if you're not expecting a pretty good bump, then it can kind of mess you up if you hit something that you're not expecting. I've ridden these roads, enough to where I kind of know where all the stuff's at that I need to avoid. That's one reason why I don't do a lot of carving, because when you're carving, well, here's the spot right here that I'm talking about. All those, no suspension compression on that. I didn't feel a bit. But if you're out here and you're just flying along and you're carving and you're not paying attention, and you hit one of these potholes or manhole covers when you're in the middle of a carve, you're probably going to be on your face. So, I have ridden, like I said, I've ridden these roads enough to know kind of where all the major bumps are, and I try to avoid them. There's another one right there. Another thing that I've noticed on the Oryx is I tend to ride a little faster on this wheel than even on my Sherman L. I normally don't, 30 to 35 is kind of my top speed. I'm comfortable, anything over 35 to me is, I'm almost 60 years old, so my self-preservation mode kind of kicks in, and so I the speed limit here where I ride is 30, so I normally try to keep it around there. But I've noticed when I'm riding this wheel, I'll be riding along and I'll look at my speed and I'll be doing faster than what I normally go, or what it feels like. This wheel, it doesn't feel like you're going as fast as when you're on a smaller wheel. So But I don't have any problem with that. That just shows that it is a comfortable ride, and it's a good, smooth, comfortable ride as far as the riding on smooth concrete and stuff like that. I just wish there was a little more give, a little more compression. I wish it didn't have a progressive spring. To me, the progressive spring just ruins it. I'm sure that anybody jumping or anything like that would want that, but not me. I would just rather have a good, consistent compression all the way to the bottom of the travel. But it rides really good. Honestly, I still kind of prefer the Sherman L as far as the overall ride. I think the Sherman L, it has the perfect balance of the weight and the speed. It could be a little peppier off the start. The Sherman L, it takes off pretty good, but it's not like the Patton. The Patton, from a dead stop to full throttle, it's fast. It takes off like a rocket really quick. And the Sherman L, you have to put a little more weight into it. You have to lean into it a little more to get it to go. And this one's even a little worse than the Sherman L as far as when you want it to go, you have to lean into it to get it to go. But I don't mind that too much because I'm not out here racing or doing anything crazy. I'm just cruising the roads. The Patton is just, it's insane how that wheel, is you say it's so small and light. The thing weighs almost 100 pounds, but still, the thing just accelerates and brakes unbelievably fast. And on that wheel, no matter how fast you're going, you basically just have to think which direction you want to go. You just think, I want to go right, and it turns so easily. And compared to the Sherman L and this one right here. But at slow speeds, it doesn't really feel that bad. Maneuverability at slow speeds is, to me, fine on this wheel. It's mainly when you're at speed is when you really feel when you go to turn, you really have to lean off the wheel, put your weight on it to get it to turn. I have set this wheel up to where it looks pretty much exactly like my Sherman L. The same pads, even down to the same patches that I put on the side. But it's a good cruiser wheel. It just doesn't have any compression past your rider sag. But supposedly, this one has a top speed of about 70 miles an hour and a range of, I don't know, what is it, 125 or 150 miles or some craziness like that. I mean, that all depends on your, the rider weight, the terrain, how fast you're, how aggressive you're riding it. All of that comes into play. I do get about a week. I ride every single day. I started riding about almost exactly a year ago on the V10F, and then went to the Patton, and then went to the Sherman L, and then got this Oryx. And I have kind of a set course that I ride in my neighborhood that is about, I've upped it a little bit. I've added a few more roads to that route. It was about 12 miles. Now I'm doing somewhere between 15 to 30. 15 to 20, sorry. 15 to 20 miles every day, unless it's raining. If it's raining, I don't ride in the rain. But we've been kind of lucky, or maybe unlucky, depending on how you look at it. We haven't had a lot of rain this year. We're in a drought, big time. And we have not had much rain at all. And even on the days that it has rained, normally it would rain and then dry up enough where I could ride, and later in the afternoon the roads would dry up enough for me to ride. Or I would ride earlier in the day and then it would rain later that evening. So, I have ridden on most of the rainy days, either early, before or after the rain. I normally let the streets dry up before I get out here on them. I know it doesn't hurt to ride in the rain, but I just don't like, slinging the road grime all over the wheel, all over, my back, because it's still, even with the fender, it still slings up on you a little bit. And I am riding a little slower, like the last time. I'm riding a little slower and more careful today because I'm carrying this camera. It does feel a little weird when you're carrying this camera with this big selfie stick. But like I was saying, I can normally charge this Oryx up and ride just about all week on a single charge before I have to charge it again. I alternate. I'll charge this one, I'll ride it for a week. When it gets down, and normally it doesn't go all the way down. I can ride it for almost a whole week, and it'll only be down in the 30. Once the battery level hits the 30% range, I'm gonna charge it. because there's a lot of hills in my neighborhood here that I ride, and I definitely don't want to be, bombing up a hill real fast and have this thing cut out on me because it's too low a battery. So I normally recharge once I hit the 30s. I'll park it, and then when I come back from my last ride of the week or whatever on this, I'll park it, and then I will charge the Sherman L. And on the Sherman L, I can't get a full week of riding, but I can get probably 4 or 5 days out of it. And then when I get down in the 30s on it, I'll park it and grab this one and charge it. So I alternate every week. I've been alternating. I haven't ridden the Patent in a while. I need to get it out and ride it. It's been a few weeks since I've ridden the Patent. But like I said, I love that Patent. It is such a great wheel. But I got big feet, and I wear these motorcycle boots. And like I said earlier, it's I just don't have enough room on that Patent to spread the pads out. Really, it's just the brake pad. I need to make a fairing or something for it so I can move that brake pad back further, about another inch or so, or two. If I can move that brake pad back, it would be much more comfortable to ride. I mean, the Patent wears me out. It does. When I get done with the ride on the Patent, I am just completely rubber-legged. I can barely walk because, the whole time I'm riding, I'm in a really aggressive squat because of the pad placement. And I've tried to move them back further, but when I do that, I can't get a good, the pads won't hold on the Velcro because there's not enough there holding on. So I've got them as far back as they'll go. And I can ride it. I just can't ride it on really long rides. And I normally don't stop and take a break. I normally do my whole ride without stopping, usually. So when you're doing 15 miles without stopping, and you are forced to be in a position to where you can't straighten your legs up, it gets uncomfortable. It's very strenuous, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. Hey, how you doing? Were you beeping at me? I don't know. But see, I'm doing 30 miles an hour. It doesn't feel like I'm doing 30 miles an hour. On the Sherman L and the Patent, when you're doing 30, I can tell that I'm doing 30. It just feels like I'm moving faster. This one's got about a 3 to 5 mile an hour difference on how it feels as far as your speed. It feels like you're going slower than you really are. But it it does cruise really good. I mean, this thing is a really good cruising wheel. There's all kinds of potholes and stuff in this right here in this little stretch. They're always hidden by the shadows of the trees, so it's hard to see them until you get right up on them. But it does, it feels stable. It's a little more top heavy than the Sherman L, I would say. The flip flop, where it flip flops back and forth, between when you're riding it. There's a little more of that on this than there is on the Sherman L. The Sherman L both and this Oryx, knock on wood, I have not felt I haven't felt the first bit of wobbles at all. I have had wobbles on the patent a few times, and I know what everybody says. Oh, it's rider skill. Get good, kid. You're not any good at riding. Get more experience. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Honestly, I mean, I know that controlling the wobbles has a lot to do with your skill. Yes, I understand that. But I do believe that some wheels are inherently more wobbly than others. That's one of the main reasons that I did not buy the Lynx. Because, after watching some of the videos of people riding the Lynx, pro riders that rode the Lynx that were having wobble issues, or seeing them wobble out, like Chooch or whatever. If you watch the video of him bombing through the middle of downtown Denver or wherever he was on the Lynx, that wheel, the whole time he's riding it, is wobbling, wobble, the whole time. Between his legs, that thing is just wobbling all over the place. And normally what I found on the patent when I got wobbles, it was always on a downhill, going downhill in a curve, and you hit a bump. That's when it happens. So, I've learned, and I was able to control them every time that I got them. It only happened probably 3 or 4 times I got wobbles on the patent. And I was able to control them and stop the wobbles, but I think just about every time I got them, I was going down a hill, started into a curve or something like that, and hit a pothole or hit some kind of little bump in the road, and as soon as I did, it started wobbling, and it was progressively getting worse. I could tell it wasn't stopping, so I had to go in, slam on the brakes, go into a carve, and then it stopped it. But I have, on the Sherman L, I've ridden the same exact roads, hit the same bumps, and haven't felt the first indication of a wobble starting. And the Oryx too. I have not experienced any wobbles on this wheel. Knock on wood again. But this one is more, I call it flippy floppy. When you're riding it and the wheel's standing up between your knees, and it'll flip flop back and forth, but between your knees as you're riding it. When you hit bumps and stuff like that, it'll flip, but it'll flip back and forth. And this one does it more than my Sherman L. My Sherman L, rarely ever do I feel it you know, flip-flopping back and forth like that. My patent does it, and this one does it, but the Sherman L, I have not felt that. But like I was saying earlier, you know, hey, how's it going? But like I was saying, the Sherman L is, to me, I still like it better. I still like riding the Sherman L better. As far as, to me, it has the perfect balance between the weight and the power, the stability. Everything on the Sherman L to me is just a little bit better than the Oryx. But I would definitely, you know, I would definitely buy this wheel again. If I would definitely, this one's a keeper. I do enjoy riding this wheel for sure. So, um, it does, it definitely wears you out. You know, riding this thing, it wears you out. My thighs and my calves are burning for sure. And there's one thing on this wheel that definitely has an advantage over every other wheel, is the seated riding. It's like so easy to ride seated because you barely have to drop. You know, even me, I'm 6 foot tall. Oh, well, let me stress, or let me say this. I do have the Sherman L. I posted this on the Facebook page. I do have the Sherman L pedal lowering brackets that lower the pedals 1 inch. On my Sherman L, my Sherman L has pedal lowering brackets also, and when you measure from the ground to the edge of the pedal, it's 8.5 inches from the ground to the edge of the pedal. On this one, it does have adjustable pedals, but in the lowest position with the factory pedals, it was still 10 inches from the ground to the edge of the pedal. So there was an 1.5 inch difference in the lowest position on this. And I could feel it when I was mounting and dismounting the wheel and just riding in general. It just felt like, you know, I wasn't, you know, like I said, I don't do jumps, I don't ride off-road, I don't do anything crazy. I'm just riding the roads, just a normal everyday person riding, cruising the roads. So I was wanting to get the pedal height lower a little bit to try to match what I had on the Sherman L. Well, when you put the Sherman L pedal lowering brackets on this one, in the highest position, it was basically the same as the factory brackets in the lowest position on this one. The Sherman L lowering brackets will not mount to this wheel in the lowest position. There's a ridge on the side of the battery box that goes into a groove on the pedal hanger, on the pedal bracket. And the pedal brackets do not have that groove for you to mount it in the lowest position on here. So I took the pedal brackets to a CNC machine shop that's close to me, and I had them machine the groove in the pedal brackets. So I was able to mount the Sherman L pedal lowering brackets on the Oryx in the lowest position, and that gives me the same exact 8.5 inch tall pedal height, just like my Sherman L. So when I'm riding seated like I am now, there's not much of, you know, I don't have to drop my butt down very far to get into the seated position on this thing, which is great. I'm still learning how to ride seated. I haven't been doing this very much. You know, I've been practicing, but You know, I don't ride seated, especially around this neighborhood on the roads. I'll do it up here in the parking lot, or if there's somewhere where I know there's not going to be any traffic. But the way the people drive in my neighborhood, man, there's no way I would ride sitting down. Uh, One, because of, you know, you have much less reaction time when you're sitting down. You cannot accelerate or brake or turn near as fast when you're sitting down, and the people can't see you as good when you're sitting down. You're a smaller target. Most of them barely see you when you're standing up, so I'm just not taking the chance of riding around here on the road sitting down and get run over. Because it's just about an everyday thing. You know, every single day I encounter some idiot on the road driving on the wrong side of the road, or pulling out in front of me, pulling out of their driveway in front of me, and the deer, squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, raccoons, you know, all the wildlife too is a constant. You're constantly, you know, slaloming around stuff. And but for the most part, you know, the Oryx to me is, it's a great wheel. The only thing is the suspension. I just wish the suspension was a little bit more cushy. Well, I wish it was a little bit more cushy, because it don't have any cush. I mean, there's nothing past, you know, when you step up on it and the springs compress down because of your rider weight. Anything beyond that is pretty much non-existent. I'm not getting anything. Like I said, unless, you know, you're somebody that's going to be dropping off a 3-foot ledge or something on the flat ground, yeah, it'll probably compress a little bit for you, and it probably won't even bottom out, I'm sure. But you know, I'm not doing that kind of stuff. I would just like to have a nice little cushy Cadillac ride around here. But that's really, that was my only complaint that I could think of, was the suspension. Other than that, it's a good ride. I really enjoy riding this thing. And who knows? I mean, maybe, you know, the more I ride it, maybe I'll start liking it more than the Sherman L. I don't know. Maybe. That's just something that I'll have to see in the future. But as for right now, I'm still liking the Sherman L a little bit better, as far as the total package goes. Yeah, I'm not used to riding with this camera, so I'm definitely riding a lot slower and more conservative carrying this camera. I don't know, it just kind of freaks me out when I'm carrying this camera. Oh man, the thighs and the calves are burning. Woo! All right. That concludes another ride for the day.